Welcome to Session 8, when Joseph reveals himself to his brothers in our study of Joseph, God's faithfulness in the waiting. This is an exciting chapter to read. In Genesis 45, we see Joseph finally reveal himself. So I'm going to read a few verses from this section, starting in verse 4 of Genesis 45. It says, "Then Joseph said to his brothers, 'Come close to me.' When they had done so, he said, 'I am your brother Joseph, the one you sold into Egypt. And now do not be distressed, and do not be angry with yourselves for selling me here, because it was to save lives that God sent me ahead of you. For 2 years now there has been famine in the land, and for the next 5 years there will be no plowing and no reaping. But God sent me ahead of you to preserve for you a remnant on earth and to save your lives by a great deliverance. So then it was not you who sent me here, but God. He made me father to Pharaoh, lord of his entire household, and ruler of all Egypt.'" I am just blown away at what Joseph is able to see through all of this. He went through slavery. He went through time in prison. He's now in a position of authority, and he's able to look back and see God's plan. I also noticed that Joseph doesn't have a moment of like, "I told you so. Remember my dreams. Remember all that happened. It really is true." Instead, he points us to God. He points us to what God has been doing all along and his bigger plan. As you continue to read, you're going to see lots of Joseph's emotions. He does a lot of crying in this chapter. He is just overcome with revealing who he really is to his brothers. At the beginning of chapter 46, we see God show up to Joseph's dad, Jacob, who's also called Israel. So I'm going to read a few verses from that. So this is Genesis 46, verse 3. It says, "I am God, the God of your father," he said. "Do not be afraid to go down to Egypt, for I will make you into a great nation there. I will go down to Egypt with you, and I will surely bring you back again. And Joseph's own hand will close your eyes." So this is God showing up in a vision to Jacob, reminding him that it's okay to go down to Egypt. This is part of his plan. And God is still a covenant-keeping God. He still has plans for his nation to come back to the promised land, which we will see revealed. We'll see more details in our coming sessions of God's faithfulness in this area. But I love how God reassures Jacob. I love the kindness of him telling him that in his final days, he's going to get to see his son Joseph and be with him. This is just an amazing chapter of how God shows up, of Joseph's character, his tenderness, his kindness. Lots of crying, lots of emotion here. But he's able to look past what his brothers have done to him and really see what God was doing all along. So as you go through your homework, think about how God is at work in your own life. Think about maybe situations in your life where you didn't know what God was doing, but then you could look back and see his hand in it all along. Remember that God has always been faithful, and he will continue to be faithful to you as well.